Hello everyone, JamieStarr, New World News Network. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and check the other links. On this video, I'm going to get into this study. Let me move this out of the way. That yes, kids, drugs are bad. Marijuana use dampens brain's response to reward time, a study finds. Changes may increase risk of continued drug use and addiction. So, it is a gateway drug. Not many people may go to the gateway, but the summary was most people would get little rush out of the idea they're about to win some money. And I'm going to discuss this. In fact, if you look to their brain at that very moment, you'd see activity in the part of the brain that responds to rewards. But for marijuana users, that rush just isn't as big and gets smaller over time. A new study finds that it may open them up to risk of more addiction because, there's obviously something going on with the lack of dopamine or the feeling of excitement, whatever chemical offsets that. I think the interesting thing about this is, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? I think some could argue that, in terms of what the rewards are, if it's something like money, how much do you value money, keeping things kind of in perspective, like maybe it makes you less prone to cheap thrills and more in tune with higher things, but I do think this is something that's gone on. I go through periods where I'll smoke all the time, then maybe I will bring it down to like once a week, then maybe every couple months. It's just kind of sporadic as far as my personal use, but I know other people where, there are things where I think you see it in people where something they may enjoy, they're just kind of about, and then smoke a little weed, and then they almost can't enjoy things without it. Basically, that's the conclusion it makes, where they kind of enjoy a concert, but if they're at the concert stoned, they'll really get into it. I mean, this is obviously the reason why jam bands are still in business. Like, people smoke pot, half of them probably sound awful without it. Most people would get a little rush out of the idea that they're about to win some money. In fact, if you look into their brain at that very moment, you'd see lots of activity in the part of the brain that responds to rewards. But for people who've been using marijuana, that rush isn't as big and it gets smaller over time. And that dampened, blunted response may actually open marijuana users up to the risk of becoming addicted to that drug or others. The new results come as a long-term study of young marijuana users that trace brain responses to rewards over time. It was performed at University of Michigan Medical School. Published in JAMA Psychiatry, it shows measurable changes in the brain's reward system with marijuana use, even when other factors like alcohol use and cigarette smoking were taken into account. What we saw was that over time, marijuana use was associated with a lower response to monetary reward, says senior author and neuroscientist Mary Herzog, PhD. Again, this, I feel like part of this kind of backs up the idea of like the lazy stoner stereotype, where it's like someone who's just like, the people who would rather go after what they're passionate about than something else. Like, I've had friends who are, been offered decent opportunities, but they're more into music, even though it's less monetarily rewarding, so they go for music. Good thing, bad thing, that's completely debatable. This means that someone would be rewarded to most people was no longer rewarded to them, suggesting that not proving that their reward system had been hijacked by the drug and that they need the drug to feel reward, or that emotional response of their brain is dampened. And so this just goes more in depth in this. I also think over to the side, there's a thing where it's, them talking about how it rewires the brain's reward circuits. Teens with medical marijuana cards much more likely to say they're addicted, and marijuana dependence alters the brain response to drug paraphernalia. New research demonstrates the drug paraphernalia triggers the reward areas of the brain differently than in non-dependent marijuana users, so Maybe this explains why more of my friends have affinities for bongs than I do. I just am like, let's smoke. I don't care what it's coming through. It might be pretty, might be ugly, but it's a piece of glass, whatever. Um, but, I just wanted to point out things people think it's harmless, and there are trade-offs with everything. Trade-offs with what food you eat, trade-off with what substances you take, vaccines, prescription meds. All of it has trade-offs. So you should always look into things, and this is some of the new science coming out about pot. And again, I think it just kind of reinforces different stereotypes, but I figured I would cover it. So have a good one, everyone.